Coming up today, it's episode 113 of In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. We get a revisit from Joe Theismann. Our guest from episode 97 is back to tell us about a big trip he's part of to Spain where the Commanders take on the Dolphins. He recaps last year's season for the Commanders, his Notre Dame Fighting Irish as well, tells us about the new stadium for the Commanders at the old site of RFK Stadium, and we get his thoughts on the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Not a member yet. Does he have a chance to be that in the future? All that and more this episode 113, featuring Joe Theismann. Well, Joe, thanks for joining us here once again. You're the first repeat guest that we've had on our show, and it's great to have you once again. Some great stories that you shared last time with us, shared your incredible journey with us. This time we want to talk about a couple of different things. We last had you on in September, so a couple of things that are happening since that point. But we want to start with big game travel. You're involved with a big event coming up this NFL season. So many NFL games being played abroad this year. There's one being played in Spain that you're a part of. What can you tell us about the trip coming up?
Well, I'm gonna go through the list of things that are available through big game travel for the opportunity to go to Madrid to see the Commanders play the Miami Dolphins. First of all, they'll handle all airfare for the complete package, but you can do a land package if you want to do on your own. They're offering a Barcelona add-on to see more of Spain if you'd like to do that. Handle hotel accommodations, tours, and more. Guests have guaranteed game tickets with the option to upgrade their seats. So that's something to consider depending upon, I don't know what the seating looks like in the stadium, but it should be interesting. We're going to host 3 parties, including an all-inclusive tailgate on game day, of which I'm going to be hosting all 3 of them. So I hope to see a lot of people there. And, a lot of, obviously I was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. I played for the Commanders, so I've got a little bit of interest in this one all the way around. You get a chance to see all the major highlights of Madrid, including the Royal Palace. And Big Game Travel is the premier company in the industry. And we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. So happy anniversary to us, 25 years in business. And so, okay, this is a big thing. He says, let us handle all the planning. All the guests need to do is grab their passport, pack their bags, and get ready for a fantastic trip. Now, I want to emphasize something. Please make sure you have your passport. I've been on too many trips with too many people that all of a sudden they get to the airport and it's like, oh my gosh, I left my passport on my desk, or I left my passport in the bed somewhere. So I would check that as number 1 on my list to make sure that you have your passport, and then we'll take care of everything else after that.
Yeah, this sounds like an amazing trip, obviously, with the game over there. But I know Zach Thomas is going to kind of be there as a Dolphins representative as well. Will you have a chance to interact with Zach at all during this time?
I'm sure we will. Absolutely. I'm really looking forward. I haven't seen him in a long time. A lot of my family, my children lived in the Fort Lauderdale area down in Florida. I used to go over to the practice facility over in Miami. Of course, I was drafted by the Miami Dolphins back in 1971. So, decided not to go there. And then they went to 3 Super Bowls. Good choice by me, huh?
Well, you went to a couple of Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl yourself as well.
We did okay.
And still, all these years later, you have this connection to the Washington franchise. Why is that? Why do you think that is? And did Dan Quinn kind of bridge that gap a little bit and bring some of you guys back into the fold here recently?
Yeah, Dan actually has reached out to a lot of us. And so there's a lot more activity as far as the retired players go, former players go. So it's fun. But I've had great relationships I had a relationship with Dan Snyder. I have a relationship with Josh. And I live about 30 minutes in Virginia away from the facility. So I love to go over to watch practice. And they've been wonderful to me and given me a chance to be able to really learn about this new year of football, with the simulators that they have now for quarterbacks so that they can, study without really having to be on the field and continue to learn. I think that's really helped Jaden, by the way, and be able to meet with coaches and learn philosophies. That was the one thing I really enjoyed about broadcasting is it gave me what I call the keys to the library. If I went into coaching, I only played in one organization for Washington for 12 years. So you knew a few different philosophies, but not the 32 that are available. In broadcasting, I had access to owners, general managers, coaches, players, equipment people, trainers. I had access to everybody. So it gave me a great opportunity to learn more about the game of football and about the way it was played at our level in a lot of different places. So that's what broadcasting was for me. Like I tell people all the time, it was the keys to the library of football for me, which I absolutely love. And I continue to try and do that when I get out to the facility and have a chance to spend some time with the Commanders.
Yeah, when you go out there in the year that they had this past year, do you watch these games as a broadcaster? Do you watch the games as a fan? How do you do that as a former player who played at a high level in the NFL?
I watch it as a fan first, but then I listen to some of the things the broadcasters are saying. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. See, what broadcasting to me is very simple. I call it a what and a why. It's the what, why business. The what is what your eyes tell you you're seeing. I saw an interception. I saw a touchdown pass. I saw a great tackle. Okay. Our job as analysts are to tell the fans why it happened. That's why I call it a what and why business. Sometimes I'm waiting for the whys, and all of a sudden we're on to the next play. And I'm thinking, missed opportunity. I'm, sort of putting myself in that broadcasting booth again, and how much I enjoyed. And by the way, I lost a dear, dear friend. Mike Patrick just passed on Easter, and Michael and I worked together for 15 years, and Paul as well, Paul McGuire. So it was a fun situation, man. But I mean, we used to say, let me tell you a story about Paul. Okay. I hope he sees this. He's down in South Carolina. So when we would sit in production meetings, there would be the coaches and players, Mike, Paul, and I, and Susie Colbert was there as well, who's a phenomenal pioneer for women in doing the sidelines and everything else that she did. Unbelievable. So we'd sit there and I would take notes, and Paul would just sit and listen. So I said to him one day, I said, Paul, you don't take any notes. He said, Joey, I want you to understand this, Joey. He says, how could you be listening what people are saying if you're taking notes? I said, well, Paul, they talk, I write. They talk, I write. He said, well, I don't do it that way. And God bless him, man. He's just a great guy. It was so much fun being part of our team. I worked with great producers, great directors. We really started the NFL broadcasts on ESPN. I mean, I joined them in the second year when they had a rotating analyst for a lot of years, Burt Reynolds, different kinds of everybody. And then we did it in 1985. I got hurt 86, 87, 1988. Yeah, I spent my first 2 years at CBS. And then John Madden was there, and I said, well, there really isn't going to be another level to go through with as great as John is and as great as he was as a broadcaster. So I had the opportunity. Steve Bornstein gave me the chance to move over to ESPN.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Mike Patrick. At one point, really, he was the preeminent play-by-play guy on ESPN. He was everywhere. Like you said, a big loss for him that when we lose him, this past year. So I'm glad you brought him up. Not only the Commanders, but your Irish had an incredible year getting to the championship game, the national championship game in the playoffs as well. Was that something that you were involved with as a fan, but were you at the games as well?
I was at some of the games. I usually try and go to about 3 games of our home games in South Bend. I was at the game, we got off to a slow start in Ohio State. Congratulations to them. They just kept coming. A lot of great athletes there, and Notre Dame had a lot of great athletes as well. And I'm happy for Ryan. I'm happy that he has the opportunity to be able to be a part of the NFL and to move on. I thought he just got better and better as the year went on. So, I think we're going to have a really good one coming up here again. There's a little bit of a quarterback battle there, but at least the quarterbacks that are at Notre Dame now are not guys that have just come in. And Mike Denbrock, who's the offensive coordinator there now, has a chance to be able to work with some people that he's had before. And I think it'll be the implementation of a little broader offense, a little bit more of an opportunity to utilize both guys.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman in his third year, great job to get that team to the national championship. That can't be an easy job, being the head coach of Notre Dame football when you look back and all the historic names, Hall of Fame names as well. How difficult is that type of job?
I think it's tough. I think it's 24/7, 365. You're the coach of the Notre Dame football team, and everybody's talking about it. I mean, movies have been made about it. There's history in it. There's legends that have played there. There's legacies that have been created. Marcus has just done a fantastic job of upholding that standard of excellence that they expect from Notre Dame football. I mean, that's the bottom line. And don't get me started on the NILs and the portals and everything else that's going on there. I will say this, though. I can't believe that a group of adults that decide on scheduling for college basketball and football would have portal dates occur in the middle of the playoffs in both basketball and football. I mean, how do an intelligent group of people, adults, sit there and not look at the schedule and say, maybe this isn't the best thing for us to be able to have kids jump in ship right in the middle of an opportunity to be able to do something special. So hopefully they'll correct that this year. And everybody will say, well, it's the first time. That's not something that you look at and think that that's a first time mistake. That's just a flat out blown opportunity. I mean, the backup quarterback at Penn State, left in the middle. So, you want to be able to preserve college football as much as you can. Actually, it's not amateur sports anymore. It's professional. I call it professional sports played by really young people.
Yeah, I work in college athletics. It's definitely a different time in college athletics for sure. And the system that is set up at times, as you said, it makes these kids out to be the bad guys sometimes, but they're just playing in the system that they're given right now, I guess.
I mean, how do you turn down $1.5 million? Somebody says, hey, come here, we'll give you this. Come here, we'll give you that. I mean, I think it's tough decisions for them and their parents. I really think that, okay, now that everything is sort of on the table and the lawsuits, at least one of the lawsuits has been settled out in California. So the economics are sort of somewhat taking shape. Now they have to sit down and figure out what's in the best interest of the colleges and their teams, and what's in the best interest of the student athletes. I emphasize student athletes, because these kids that are jumping from school to school to school, I hate to say this, but that isn't the way life is after you leave college. You're just not going to go from one job to the next job and people are going to pay you more money and offer you more money. What you put between your ears is going to be what you have to fall back on. So I just caution, hey, get whatever you can get. I'm okay with that. But I caution them to think that life's going to be that way after you leave school.
Yeah. Kids now maybe are making more than you did when you played professional football.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I was the highest paid player in the Canadian Football League at $50,000 a year. I played 3 years. Do the math. Okay. It's different. And it's really funny when I look at, you mentioned, economics and salaries and stuff. When I played in Washington in 1984, won a world championship, was an MVP of the league, all these kind of things, right? 1984, fourth highest paid player in the league at $1 million a year.
Wow.
Warren Moon was the highest at 1.4. So it's, times have changed, but like I say, I never begrudge anybody from being able to capitalize on an opportunity. If the situation presents itself and you can make yourself some money and just be a good person, give some of it back to help others, but then take and enjoy your life. I mean, we're in a society today where the numbers are crazy in sports. They're absolutely crazy. I mean, you got, Juan Soto, $750 million. Shohei Ohtani, who I absolutely love to watch play baseball. I love to all of a sudden I become a big Dodger fan. I grew up in Jersey, and a Yankee fan as well. So I go coast to coast with those two teams.
I'm a Dodgers fan as well, so I like that. We got you partly because of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Ironically, a place you're not in just yet, but you were, on that list of the senior category earlier this year in September. You didn't make the final, the cuts there, but do you think you're Hall of Fame worthy? Again, you mentioned MVP, Super Bowl champion. You've kind of checked off a lot of boxes. What is left for you to be able to get into that Hall of Fame, do you think?
Well, Michael, it's not my, am I worthy? Am I not worthy? That's not for me to decide. I know I had a great time playing ball. I love playing for the fans in Washington. I'm one of those few guys, to be honest with you, that really had a chance to play his entire career in one city, in one place, for one franchise. So many guys now, like guys have moved on to different teams. Joe finished up, in Kansas City, and Johnny finished up in San Diego United. I mean, you go back and look at the history of the quarterback position, there's a lot of guys that have finished up in different places. And I just consider myself very lucky to have the opportunity to have played in one city and for the fans of the Washington, at that time, the Redskins. And I don't know. I don't think the name's coming back, to be honest with you. I think let these young guys, are called the Commanders, that had so much success a year ago. Let them enjoy who they are and establish this new era in football in Washington. I'm thrilled for them, but that's not for me to decide. It's certainly a tremendous honor. It's the ultimate honor you can get as a professional in our job and professional football. And would it be wonderful? Absolutely. But I'm not the one to decide anything like that.
You mentioned the young guys, the young quarterback, and Jane Daniels as well. What do you see when you see him, and how good he is now, and maybe how good he can be?
I've always said this: the quarterback position is the single most dependent position on a field. You rely on so many people around you. You rely on the line. You rely on guys catching the ball. You rely on guys, making kicks. Mark Mosley was the MVP of the National Football League in 1982, the year we won the Super Bowl. And I don't think it's coincidental that Mark had such a great year and we wound up winning the championship. Mark was a huge part of what we were able to do. But I think Jaden has all the tools. He has a great work ethic. He's a great kid. I think they're putting together a terrific team around him. Adam Peters, the general manager, went and filled the 5 draft choices he got. They were all at different positions, and they all sort of filled needs that Washington had. So I'm excited about the way they're building. I'm excited about the youth that they have. We're one of the youngest teams in football a year ago. And, a guy like Bobby Wagner, for example, who's coming back, great leadership. These are the type of players. This is what they have there. They've got a young group of kids, the young, hungry guys, and then you've got the veterans to sort of lead them and let them grow. One of the best things that coaches can do is find somebody who can work with the players, the young guys. It has to be player to player. Coaches only can spend so much time with them, but player to player, they get a chance to learn an awful lot. And now what I think Washington has done a terrific job is finding people in the right places to be able to help the young guys grow.
And you mentioned in your days, you played at RFK Stadium, and now a chance, it looks like, for a new stadium on that site as well, a dome stadium for the Commanders. How excited are you to see, that area where you played, where you excelled, kind of come back in this fashion?
What's funny about that, Mike, is when I played in Washington, we went to RFK Stadium. We'd drive down to GW Parkway, go there. I only saw the stadium in a parking lot. I didn't realize there was that much land around it. With the things they want to do, the developments that they're talking about, I think it's exciting. 2 years ago, we did a thing. Peyton Manning was there with his Peyton Place. Yeah. And there was Mark Mosley, Darryl Green, Larry Brown, Jeff Bostic, myself. We all walked around RFK as they began to start to tear it down. For me, it's it's bittersweet memories. It was where my leg got broken, but it was also where we enjoyed such tremendous success. And people have asked me an awful lot about what my favorite game is in football, and I think they expect me to say the Super Bowl, and certainly it was. But the NFC Championship game against the Cowboys at RFK Stadium, our fans, our stadium, our arch rival, chance to go to the Super Bowl, all those things were in play. And we managed to win. And at the end of the game, I'm getting goosebumps telling this story right now. At the end of the game, I'm standing on the sidelines, and they brought in these like 3 tiers of aluminum seats, and people are pounding their feet, and the ground beneath my feet is actually shaking. And it's surreal when I think about that particular moment, standing there and feeling the vibrations and the energy and the enthusiasm. And, with the success that the team had last year, and, the new stadium, probably going to take 3-4 years to build. So, they're looking at, we're 25, maybe 28 if they get it right at that time. So, but it's great to go back to the location. I think there are a lot of people who wanted the name to stay the same. They want a lot of things to be the same. This is a chance to sort of get some of it back a little bit in the location that they drove to the stadium to. They parked in the certain spots. So it's a chance for them to feel it again.
Yeah, I think $2.7 billion stadium, $1 billion, the development around there as well. As you said, a lot of land around there. I'm sure they'll bring things back. Yeah, that's chump change these days.
Okay, I got a question for you, Mike. Okay, here, help me understand this. When did we start talking in billions? I mean, it was like when you were a young guy growing up, man, oh God, I love to be a millionaire. Oh gosh, a millionaire, that's unbelievable. Now it's like, okay, you're a millionaire. So, and now they're into the billions, and we see a number of them around. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and facilities. I'm sure there's you build something like this, a dome stadium. I'm sure Super Bowl is somewhere in the future to be played at something like this. Again, it all goes into it. We had Herm Edwards on recently. He said, NFL's done a great job to where it's a year-long thing. The season is what it is, but there's always something going on. OTAs right now, camps as well. Do you feel that as a former player that this is still a time that you remember, getting ready for a season?
Yeah, but it was a little bit different for us. We had to do it on our own. I mean, we see what a lot of people, I think, lose sight of, unless you really studied football. When I got in the league in '74, we had 6 preseason games. I used to go to camp before the 4th of July. And and really the off season for Washington, for example, we were an older football team. George Allen was the coach. He brought guys from LA, and all of a sudden now that became our training period. The guys got in shape during that period. Not that many of them were, but they were just a bunch of guys that had a lot of fun. I could tell you that. But in the early years, when we had 6 preseason games, then we had 4. Now you're down to 3, soon to go to 2. And here's to me that change I don't think is beneficial, because to me I look at the first 3 games of the regular season. To me, they're glorified preseason games. From a conditioning standpoint, you're not in shape. You can't be in shape. If you're Minnesota going down to play in Miami and it's a hot day, you better hydrate, I guess I could say. And here's the thing is, how are you able to evaluate players as a coach if you only see them in 3 preseason? First of all, your vets aren't going to play at all. And so how do you evaluate them? Do you evaluate them in OTAs? You evaluate them in mini camps. You evaluate them in training camp, but you don't see them get hit. You don't see them hit anybody. You don't see them get hit. I think the evaluation process becomes much more difficult to be able to say, okay, I want this guy. And look at the Cleveland Browns. You have 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to. Obviously, Joe Flacco's going to get work. Kenny Pickett's there, right? Is I think So you figure he probably is a starter and 2 rookies. How do you split time with the rookies? And how do you get Kenny ready to play? I just think it's a difficult chore for coaches to be able to, okay, we want to evaluate that. But here's the other thing. It puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Dylan and Shador to make every throw, to make every decision, much more than you would if you had a little bit of flexibility and one got away. Okay, I can handle that. So now I'm 8 out of 10 with one that got away. Now 8 out of 10 doesn't cut it. If the other guy goes 10 to 10, because I just think it's a very difficult process for coaches today.
Yeah, your reps are so limited right now. So I agree with you. First couple games of the regular season, it takes them a while. You're not maybe seeing the product you're going to see midway through the season, let alone toward the end of the year for some of these teams. But again, you're a name and a person so synonymous with Washington football. You've got the big trip coming up. What can you tell us again about that for our viewers, our listeners as well? Some more information about the big game travel and that trip coming up to Madrid and Barcelona.
I'm sort of going to go through it a little bit again. Like I said, I've got my notes over here, but they're going to handle all the airfare for the complete package, and you can do a land package if you'd like. So you can add on to that. Obviously, we're going to, there's an offering to go to Barcelona and see more of Spain, just besides Madrid. They'll handle the hotel accommodations, the tours, and more. We'll find out what the more is. I'm looking forward to it. Guests are guaranteed game tickets with the option to upgrade seats. We're going to host 3 parties. I'm going to be at all of them. I'm sort of hosting all 3 parties, including a game day party. Guests get a chance to see the major highlights of Madrid, the Royal Palace, and I'm sure there are many other things. I've never been, so I'm really excited about it. And then, of course, Big Game Travel is the premier company in the industry, celebrating 25 years in business. And like I said, it's going to be, I think, a great opportunity to be able to see something special, to be able to support your fans. I've been to overseas games. The fans are fantastic. The people of Spain, I'm sure, are excited. And this is what the NFL has done, is that they're selling the NFL around the world. And I will remind everybody this: please make sure to have your passport. You don't want to be somewhere in an airport getting ready to get on a plane or go somewhere, and all of a sudden I don't have my passport. It's too wonderful an opportunity to have to forego it because of one little thing. So pack, have fun. It's going to be a fantastic trip. I'm looking forward to spending time with everybody.
As you said, the NFL's done a great job of making the NFL worldwide now. All these games that are happening overseas, so many opportunities, so many fan bases to add to watch the NFL. It's really great. It's tremendous to have, and tremendous to have you join us once again. I know if some of the stories that we've heard previously or today for the fans going to this trip, it's going to be great because you've got some great stories to share with them. And if I'm a Redskins or Commanders fan, it's going to be a joy to hang out with you and hear some of those stories, some of those first half accounts of what's going on and what had gone on with your playing days there in Washington.
Mike, thanks. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I enjoyed the trips overseas. I was in London for one of our games. When I broadcast 13 games in Tokyo. Been to Shanghai broadcasting games, and it's really great to see the fan base in the country that you're in and how enthusiastic they are about the NFL. I know when we first started going to Japan, they would scream and yell and cheer for the cheerleaders. Somebody would score a touchdown, and they just go, "Okay, well, I scored a touchdown, so what?" But it was fun in the beginning. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you've had some great experiences.
Now they're still cheering for the cheerleaders.
Yeah, there you go. You've had some great experiences, like I said, broadcasting wise as well and everything. So, Joey, thank you for your time here once again today. And hey, anytime you want to come on, anything you've got to share, you let us know. We'll get you on and we'll catch up with you. I'm sure. Again, big expectations for the Commanders, for your Fighting Irish this season as well. And again, hopefully we're keeping our fingers crossed for you that call is going to come for the Hall of Fame at some point because your numbers represent that, what you've done in your career, as you said, Super Bowl champion, MVP, certainly deserving of a call for the Hall of Fame, and hopefully you get that at some point.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care.
Always great to catch up with Joe Theismann. We appreciate his time. A special thanks to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and Jennifer with Interstate 15 for helping arrange that sit-down. As always, we thank you for listening and watching and invite you to like, to subscribe, and to share our shows. More great guests come your way very soon. For J.R. Quitman, our creator, producer, and director behind the scenes, I'm Mike Vaccaro. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time for another episode of In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. Have a great day, everybody.